Hi, I'm Benjamin Payne. At the K-12 Education office at Hillsdale College, we support school founding groups and their efforts to start classical schools across the country. Finding the right leader is one of the first and most important steps to building a successful school. While we do consider experience in education, we seek candidates who exhibit unwavering personal integrity, honesty, courage, and servant-hearted leadership. Perhaps that's you. If you're looking to engage in fulfilling, impactful, and challenging work protecting our nation's future and building up the next generation of virtuous citizens, we'd love to hear from you. I'm looking for strong school leaders right now. Learn more about how you can make a difference at hillsdale.edu/leader. hillsdale.edu/LEADER. That's hillsdale.edu/leader.
Welcome to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, bringing you insight into classical education and its unique emphasis on human virtue and moral character, responsible citizenship, content-rich curricula, and teacher-led classrooms. Now your host, Scot Bertram.
Thanks for listening. The Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio. You also can find more information on topics and ideas discussed on this show at our website, k12.hillsdale.edu. We're joined by Colin Mullaney. He is Assistant Director for School Leader Development at Hillsdale K-12 Education. Colin, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott.
We continue our summer series, this time with a conversation about supporting virtue instruction over summer break. So why is virtue formation important during the summer months when formal school instruction has been paused?
Right. Yeah, good question. I think I'd reframe that a little bit and just say that virtue formation is always important, and that summer vacation actually allows us as parents or those who are caring for kids additional opportunity to do that important work of developing virtue. And we don't want to take a pause in developing virtue. It needs to be a continual effort. You know, it's like a muscle, exercising a muscle or any habit that if you aren't using it, if you aren't actively practicing it, then it can atrophy pretty quickly. So, I guess kind of right along that line, I would say that somewhat counter to the way a lot of people tend to think about summer vacation, or at least the way it's portrayed in common culture as being a time of no responsibility and no structure and all about excitement or self-indulgence. I think that, as we go into summer, as parents or anyone who's caring for kids, the primary virtue to kind of set the groundwork is continuing some amount of orderliness and structure to the day in the form of a daily schedule. Things like getting up at a consistent time each day, a consistent bedtime, consistent meal times. Those can just help a child or anyone not only have an orderly exterior, but that supports an orderly interior, which is what virtue is all about, is proper ordering of things and being able to think in an orderly way. So I would say that, as we go into summer vacation, keeping that as a virtue of first importance is probably the right attitude.
What else should we concentrate on over summer in terms of particular virtues we might want to prioritize over break?
I would not point to any specific virtue, but look for opportunities according to, if you're looking to develop certain virtues in your child, we probably each of us have different virtues that we would benefit from working on. Focus on that, but also as the situations allow them themselves to be developed. I think it makes sense to be very intentional in trying to support students or your own children with their virtue. And you can start by building on what's happening or has happened in school. So it makes sense to take the school virtues and build on those as opportunity allows itself. But you don't have to stop there. Certainly, I would encourage anyone caring for kids to kind of think of the broad range of virtues and ways that we can develop as human beings and work to support those. And, I guess as we get into it, rather than thinking of specific virtues, I would think about principles of how do we help develop virtue in our children. And I always like to start with love. We have to start with the right intention, and that's making sure that we are looking to develop our children for their own sake, for their long-term flourishing, helping them grow into who they were created to be. And sometimes when we're helping people grow and we're giving them feedback, we can lose sight of that. So I would just continually remind us that we're doing it for that purpose, for their own sake. But then over the summer, as caretakers have time, being very intentional, again, thinking about what are the virtues that this child needs to develop, and what are the opportunities that we have, and looking and even planning for those opportunities. I would also encourage moderation. There is a limit to how much feedback on being virtuous our kids can take, that any of us can take. So, try to find those key moments when you can really have a significant impact. And then be courageous, practice fortitude. So enforce consequences or enforce kind of responsibilities, even when it's difficult. Hopefully, as we're with some of the virtues, there may be requirements that go with those, and if those responsibilities are neglected, then we as the adult need to be willing to kind of outline the natural consequences and hold children to those.
Talking with Colin Mullaney about supporting virtue instruction during summer break. For us parents out there, can we do a good job, maybe a better job than in other parts of the year, of modeling those virtues for our children and our students? And maybe that means a little change in behavior for us too.
Yeah, modeling and being present as an overt model is the absolute best way to guide people in virtue. And so the opportunity of the summer is ideally that we have more of that time to spend with our kids. And that modeling, if we are being intentionally virtuous, if we consider how we want to act in a certain circumstance, then that can have a big effect on what our children are picking up from us. And that can be certainly things like trying new things, showing a certain level of courage and humility in doing things that are uncomfortable. It can simply be showing curiosity and expressing our wonder at the world, at life itself, at creation. We can model types of behavior that lead to virtue by just sitting down and reading a book in our kids' presence, either ideally with them and to them, but even our own practice of when we have a moment, we take and read good literature. That can provide a model for how our own children will continue to grow in their virtue over their lifetime.
Let's maybe talk about a couple practical tips for parents too. Any family activities perhaps that naturally promote this virtue?
I think a really important one is having chores throughout the summer, and many families probably have them throughout the year too. But the summer gives more time for this and more opportunity perhaps to focus on this. And for children to have responsibilities, it can help them develop industriousness, just a sense of ownership and responsibility, attention to detail, and also an important understanding of their contribution to the family, which creates a strong connection. I think a key point of this is that when we assign chores to our children, we need to take time to teach them how to do those. Sometimes we can forget that mowing the lawn isn't as easy as, as straightforward as we think it is. So actually taking that time to teach them how to do the chore, what the standard is, and then holding them accountable to that. So it likely means reteaching them on several occasions, learning to break it down really well. And doing that in a way that really is, again, focused on that first ideal of love, that we're trying to grow them in who they are. We're not simply trying to get the lawn mowed, without our having to do it. So I think the chores with a real intentionality and intention on our part can be an excellent way for children to grow in virtue. Another thing is spending time outdoors. Outdoor time has so many benefits, but the opportunity for feeling and feeling wonder and curiosity at nature and being attentive to it. There's so many. As I was just thinking about, there's so many different ways. Whether it's you get to go to a beach and just walking on the beach, or being in your grass in the yard. Finding insects and taking a look at them, drawing a flower. I would strongly just encourage families to be outdoors and to, if you as the parent or caretaker can't always be out with them, have them go outside and require that they be out and entertain themselves and find ways to engage with the outside. And then also create opportunities like going hiking. So get to a place in the woods or outdoors that isn't the norm, going camping, and finding a place to go watch the stars.
Yeah.
And really, recognizing kind of the grandeur of the universe.
You talked about the how question, like teach them how to mow the lawn. Don't forget that. Should we also be talking about the why question? Why do we mow the lawn, in addition to city ordinance maybe? But why do we want a lawn that looks nice? Why do we want people to take turns setting the table? Why are we doing these things?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, those things can be framed in terms of virtues. And I think it's important to use the language of the virtues to tell them what courage is, and prudence and temperance. So we can talk about justice and as we mow the lawn and you have a responsibility to help with the family, just because that's part of what we all need to do to chip in for the family. So yes, the why is the most important piece that we teach, and we can teach the why in the moment. We treat our sister well because she's worthy of that. But we also practice kindness because learning the habits of virtue it ennobles ourselves. It makes us into who we were meant to be. Helps us fully grow into fully formed human beings.
So, are there vices that might arise over the course of the summer? And if so, how do we lovingly address them with our children?
Right. Maybe the best way is to try to proactively avoid them, but that doesn't always happen. But, I think some of the vices that I imagine are common, particular to summer, would be sloth. And, the idea that summer is all about just, well, people will say resting, but there's only so much sleep and laying around that people need, and inactivity. And so I think providing structure is a really important way to do that. And again, having a regular wake up time. I think summer also lends itself to this idea of self-indulgence that, it's kind of this.
I was going to mention that this is like, I don't want to call it selfishness, but the idea that, all right, well, this is my time now. I gave my time. I went to school. Whatever it is, this should be my time now. I think that can be a problem.
Absolutely right, and I think things just get conflated with the idea that it's a break, and we think that the break is for rest, and rest is important, but that's not really why it's a break. And the break isn't so we can go back and do school better. Even I like Joseph Pieper's idea of leisure, which is taking really committed time to understand the broader world and to place ourselves within the broader world in that context. And the summer time allows us to do that, and that's not of secondary importance, it's of primary importance, that we really come to understand who we are and our place in the world. And so the summer affords additional opportunity for that.
What signs might we want to look for to know that we're seeing growth in virtue over the summer?
I would look for our children to start to articulate the virtues that you've been naming to them, and to say that I made this choice because I want to be courageous, or to hear them express wonder. Look at the wonder of the clouds. I think those kinds of things, or even to have them engage in a conversation of when they're making a choice about, what would be the virtuous decision, what would be a decision that's at the extreme, that's a vice. So then I think seeing them struggle at it, seeing them attempt to be courageous or attempt to be temperate and make a good choice that way, and that's where virtue starts. It has to be intentional. And so when you see that, it's a great opportunity to really praise it and call that out. And then ideally we start to see it taking place as a regular practice and as a habit. And in those cases, I think it's also important for us to be attentive and call it out and to name how having that habit is improving their lives. It's making their lives less complicated and more geared toward that, that ultimate why of why we're even practicing virtue. But now they are able to do it without the effort of it.
Colin Mullaney is Assistant Director for School Leader Development at Hillsdale K-12 Education as we talk about supporting virtue instruction during summer break. Colin, thanks so much for joining us here on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
I'm Scot Bertram. We invite you to like us on Facebook. Search for Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education. You also can follow us on Instagram at Hillsdale_K-12. That's Hillsdale_K-12 on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio.